Well, I'm super duper tired, so it's time to go back to Manhattan and take the express bus home to Staten Island. By the way, around the time I took this trip, I was kind of happy to see on the wall there was some advertisements for the company that I work for, although I'm not going to say the name. Now, I'm sure that there are many of you watching that either may or may not like your job or whatever job that you may work for. I'm one that personally like my job of being an independent delivery driver. Seriously, I could drive almost anywhere I want all over Staten Island. In fact, that's why lately I've been having a lot of videos that I've been able to upload to Instagram of different buses and trains. And not to mention, the advantage of being a delivery driver, especially during the morning commute, is that yes, the morning commute itself may be hectic of drivers trying to go to and from work, and I completely respect their schedule. It's just the restaurants, delis, and diners, they often work the fastest because often their food is ready. So generally, for the most part, I'm not even in a restaurant like, let's say, a McDonald's or a Burger King for about 5 minutes before I quickly pick up the order and head straight to the customer. Of course, like any occupation, being an independent delivery driver is not without its challenges, or just being a driver, period. And that's, of course, with having to deal with traffic. Now, based on how you yourself may drive or how other may drive, it's not really what I wanted to mention about. For years, many have tried to come up with several solutions on how to potentially ease or maybe remove heavy traffic congestion from the English language, or just from any language for that matter. For instance, I'm sure that by now there are so many comments or thoughts and opinions on how traffic lights are, the average traffic light. Some may see it as a tool for safety, especially for cars and pedestrians. Others may see it more of a nuisance of having to wait at a red light with no one else going the other way. I honestly agree with both to some extent. Now, sometimes there are cases where safety measures need to be put in place, especially at times because of a tragic incident that may have occurred at one point. For instance, this isn't on the subject of traffic lights, but do you actually want to know why there have been many railroad crossings replaced with cars going underneath the tracks of the main line of the Long Island Railroad? It's not necessarily to decrease congestion. It's because sadly, a politician's son was actually killed at one of the railroad crossings. And sadly, sometimes we as humans altogether, we sometimes implement certain changes only after a tragedy or perhaps a traumatic event has since occurred. So I said all that to say that I'm not completely against traffic lights altogether for safety reasons, for both cars and pedestrians to be able to cross safely without being worried about a potential driver that may not be vigilant or sometimes sadly doesn't care about the situation that's occurring. Yet at the same time, the same tools that could be that it has been used for certain safety measures put in place is also somewhat of a time waster to some degree. Now, I am in no way encouraging anyone, regardless of their circumstances, to suddenly skip a red light. For instance, the day before I was working on the voice recording, while I was at work, I actually had to commend some police officers that was right in front of me that was actually willing and on their own power was able to stop at a red light, and I just wanted to give them a shout out. But I'm sure all of us that have been driving for probably a number of years, perhaps more years than me, because honestly I'm only 25 years old, I'm sure that there have been time wasted just waiting at a red light, and mind you, there are no cars or pedestrians going the other way. Now, there have been some locations that have implemented what is generally called a smart traffic light, where for the most part there would be Basically, if let's say you're going from north and south, the main streets north and south. Out for the most part, the light would be green. But let's say that there's a car approaching from east to west. The light would temporarily turn red to give the car going from east to west the right of way. In many cases, I'm in favor of that. But like I said, with the traffic light, sometimes what was needed at a certain time may not generally be needed anymore depending on the circumstances. So I'm not against traffic lights, while at the same time against traffic lights. Now, what on earth am I talking about? Now, I have seen so many traffic light concepts from different artists and everything, and I'm sure we could probably see different traffic light concepts on Pinterest. It's of basically a system that basically adapts to certain changes or have like a new type of design. Now, why would I be in favor of a different design than the average traffic light? Well, there are many traffic lights that basically hang above traffic, even more than that of a street lamp. Now, in a way, the downside of that kind of a system is the fact that that's a kind of traffic light that has to just stay in place. It can't generally adapt to the changing circumstances. Now, what do I mean? Now, if you recall, when I took the Sim 10 to Manhattan during the Crazy 7 train saga, I mentioned about how there could be the bus system where basically the bus system would be evaluated on an annual or perhaps a biannual basis, where each route could be checked, and if a stop needs to be added or removed, then add or remove it and make adjustments necessary based on the changing circumstances. So, in a way, how can we apply this to the traffic system? Well, one advantage of stop signs is the fact that basically many drivers could proceed at their own discretion. So, for many places, I would urge either a main street with stop signs on the side street as the first option. The second would be an all-way stop sign, basically on the main street and also the side streets. And then, this is a new kind of concept that I've thought of myself. Basically, on the main street, there would be traffic lights, but stop signs on the side streets. But this time with a different approach. Imagine a traffic light that almost looked generally like a stop sign almost, with the height of 7 feet high, which is the required height of stop signs in some urban areas. And instead of a LED screen, which has been which some concepts have been shown for some time, just have LED lights shown in a way that would be able to look attractive to some degree. And if there's a car approaching the side street, basically the cars would stop, and at a driver's discretion with the stop sign, they will be able to go and would give the brain an optical illusion that it's somewhat of a courtesy. Once that car goes, then the rest of the cars on the main street would be allowed to go. And finally, in some cases, it would also be an all-way signal. And basically how the signal would be, it would be on the side instead of a stop sign. And it would once again give off the optical illusion that a courtesy is given to some degree. And the idea is to not have these traffic lights seem like a permanent thing. Now, in some cases they would have to be permanent, and others they wouldn't. The idea is to have them adapt to the changing circumstances. What are your thoughts on this idea of easing traffic congestion? Let me know in the comments.